Borucki, we might be doing it tonight.
I'm talking about a sex journal for couples today, folks, and you're going to want to listen. I've been making a lot of videos about communication lately because really, what's meditation but the ultimate way to communicate with your inner self? My friends Levina and Caleb, a real-life couple, created something super special. An easy, honest, and direct way to communicate about something that's a tricky topic in a lot of relationships. Sex. I'm incredibly excited about this conversation and the journal that you can get all the info on in the video description, along with a link to join my private Facebook community where we have all kinds of juicy discussions every day. Now, let's talk about sex, baby.
Wow, I am so excited to be talking to you two today, Caleb Spalding and Levina Lee, creators of the Sex Journal for Couples, because I've been talking a lot about communication lately on my channel and in my videos and in interviews, because I think it is the foundation for all healing and love and togetherness and harmony and all that good stuff. I've been talking a lot about sex. I'm married with 5 children, so we all know how that happens. I have had sex multiple times in my life, and my wish for myself is that it gets better every single time. Not a promise, but I think that your sex journal might actually help me with that. Welcome, welcome, welcome to BEXLIFE.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Bex.
Thanks for having us on.
So excited to be here.
Oh, good, good. So can I tell you, I've been in my relationship for 13 years. I was previously married. My oldest child is 21 and off at college. I know. My littlest is 4. This marriage, that is my forever marriage. We've been together for 13 years and married for 10 years, and it is very happy. And we have great communication. It always wasn't like that. Can I ask you how long you've been together, my sex gurus that I'm taking advice from?
Just over a year.
We just passed the 1-year mark.
Yep.
So it's still good, right? It's still good?
Yeah.
So great.
Caleb, I know you a little bit. We met in Israel on the most epic adventure of my life.
Same.
Such a good trip, such good people, which was really the prize from that trip. So I think it's safe to say that you're not like most guys that most people have met.
I appreciate that.
Good communicator, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Someone who's really in touch with your dreams and your desires and good at the ask. But I will say that I was looking through this sex journal, and something that I love and something that I love to promote on my channel, on my platform, are simple solutions for complex issues.
Mm.
And I was looking through this sex journal and I'm like, anybody can use this. Like, any people who are bad at talking,
Totally.
right? That are weird about sex can use this. Well, everyone's a little weird about sex, but can use this, right?
I mean, it's very, we stumbled upon this idea because we love journaling and we were having incredible sex. And we thought, as true entrepreneurs, wow, let's collect the data on this. Let's get to the bottom of this, and maybe we'll discover the secret of amazing sex and be able to share that with the world and just retire for the rest of our lives and live off of that. And
I think something that most people don't know about entrepreneurs is that there is nothing in our lives that we come across that we're like, how can we turn this into a product? How can we monetize it? Like, how can we change the world with this? Like, that's just who we are. But I'm so glad that you did this. Levina, whose idea was it first? Like, who brought it up?
I think I brought it up in the very beginning, though it really...
You go, girl.
Yeah.
I mean, but like everything else in our relationship, I think Caleb and I were always like at the same page at the same time. So it was just a matter of like who said it first.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was like, it was like a snow day last winter. We had just had sex and I was looking out the window like, how can we possibly just stay here forever? And the only thing nearby was a moleskin. So I was just like, why don't we journal about this and see what we can figure out?
I love that you said, how can we stay here forever? Because no, that's so dear. And I remember those days. I really do. But a lot of times, especially when there's, a kid in the toddler bed, just 6 feet from the foot of my bed, or I'm kind of grody because I haven't been able to shower in a few days, or I haven't even really been able to connect with my husband with a couple words, let alone touch, in a little while. I'm thinking, how can I never ever have this feeling again of distance or lack of intimacy? And like, how can we make this better? And I have to say, to my husband's credit, he's so affectionate, and he's really good about the hugs and the kisses and the I love yous and you're beautiful, and asking me how I'm feeling and asking me what my needs are. And I'm the one who's a little bit distant. And what I love about the sex journal is that you talk about the same instance, the same event, right? The same encounter.
Exactly.
And what you might think is an incredible experience leaves the other person feeling completely dissatisfied or completely, without connection. Did you find that along the way?
For sure.
Many times.
Yeah. I think those were a lot of our very early experiences. We would both definitely categorize as like great sex. And there were lots of things that were coming up for both of us that we were not talking about. Like everything from just like physically, I didn't like how that felt, to emotionally, like, hey, I was a little stressed and I was honestly thinking about my email. So I wasn't totally there. The journal just like gave us a way to have these conversations that we didn't even know were conversations that we should be having.
Okay. Can I ask you something super personal?
Yeah.
Okay. Ask you both. So for both of you, and I'll start with Caleb, what was something that you discovered that you were surprised by that Levina wrote?
I think for me, a lot of my experience sexually has always been around performance. So like wanting to be the best and really wanting to pleasure my partner. And I have had some insecurities about like how I'm showing up for my partner. And it definitely happened with Levina. And in one particular instance, she shared after I wrote, how like uncomfortable I'd been. I felt like I had not really been my best. And then she was like, had this glowing entry of, it was so connected and beautiful and perfect. And I was just like, whoa, our experiences are totally different. And I shared with her what it was for me that was kind of holding me back. She was like, I didn't even realize that was a thing for you. And I'm so happy you shared it, because I thought it was incredible. And these kind of things don't bother me. Like it's a practice. It's not a performance.
Yeah. And before I move on to you, Levina, I wanted to highlight that, because that was one of the notes that I took when I was looking at the journal, that it is a practice and not a performance. And for me, as a meditation guide who is teaching people how to connect with their selves, with their own bodies, with their intuition, and it's not going to be great the first time. And that's okay. And it's not about, always sitting up nice and tall and being on the pillow and being in that space of peace and calm and like having the glowing orb above your head. Like that's not going to happen all the time, or even after many years of practice for a lot of people. But the practice is where all of the good stuff happens. It's where the learning happens, the self-discovery. There's really this arc of learning that you can appreciate every single point on. So the idea that even sex can be a practice, and it doesn't have to be a performance. It's not something where you are necessarily being rated, especially if you're with someone who's loving. And when you're loving yourself, it's just like, good. Because I just want to show up and have fun. Like, totally. I get graded in so many other areas of my life. I don't need it here.
Seriously, yeah.
Big surprises for you, Levina.
Mine is not as deep, and it's still something that I'm grappling with. From like the very, very first entry, Caleb is insanely ticklish, and it boggles my mind. Like I really don't understand it. And so like it's sensitivity to a level that I've never experienced with another person before. Like I can like touch his stomach and he'll be like dying.
So is that something you have to avoid? Is that like a big issue?
It's just something that we have to work around. Like our very, very early entries, I went back and have been rereading them to just like see the arc of our conversation over time, and like were we synced up, were we having really different perspectives. And I remembered vaguely thinking to myself, I learned a lot from Caleb's first entries, and I was really surprised. And a lot of them had to do with like how I touched his body. Like it didn't come up during sex or even after sex until we started journaling that he was like, there are actually a number of times when you're like touching different parts of my body and I start squirming, and it's not because it feels good. It's actually because I'm insanely ticklish. And I never knew that that was something I could bring up with you, especially in the early days of our relationship.
You know, I focus a lot on my platform about self-work. So it's how can I make myself better to be able to show up better for myself and for others in this world. What I love about doing work together is that it gives both people permission to be in full expression of themselves in a way that they also feel seen. So with a lot of things concerning relationships and intimacy, especially sex, because it's such a tricky subject because of societal norms and expectations and all of that, we tend to hold back because we love the person. We want to spare them of humiliation or embarrassment. And we think that being better means being kinder and protecting the person from our truths.
Right.
So with the sex journal, with both people writing down in this at the same time, in the same place, you know, their feelings about the same thing, I went in a really big circle to see this. You learn that by speaking your truth, that's what ultimately benefits the other person.
Totally.
So like my truth, even if it's something like, I kind of don't like that, or that made me feel kind of icky or whatever, saying like, you know, or speaking from the I, like you reminded people of in your book, like, I don't like being touched like that. Like, it doesn't feel good to me. Saying that is healing and nourishing for the relationship.
Totally.
Because the other person gets to say it back too. Like, they don't have to be hurt because they get to say it too.
Yeah.
It's been one of the most life-changing things that like I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
So like, I think what you just pointed out, that experience of sharing something really intimate and really vulnerable and then having it be received and did, like, opens the door to living life in a way that is so wholehearted and is so like fully self-expressed. And we've definitely found that in our own relationship, like the way that I was showing up. And I think I'm a pretty communicative person, and I think I'm very in so many areas of life, like unafraid to say what needs to be said. And with journaling about sex, I found really early on there were truly things that I was, for those exact reasons of wanting to protect Caleb or not offend him or not like upset him, I wasn't saying. And when I really got into it, I realized that I didn't have a voice. I didn't have much of a voice in my sex life. There's so many things I was afraid to say. I was holding back and not being totally honest with people about how I felt and what I wanted, and finding ways there to have the conversations that needed to be had so that our relationships and projects and whatever it was could move forward. It's really wild.
Yeah, it is wild. And I love that process of self-discovery, like that benefit that you get from this. And I can't say enough that, you know, communication, relationships, intimacy, love, long-term relationships, all of that is complicated and nuanced, and there's so many levels and it's complex and like all of that. But there are ways to get to the heart of the matter of things quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And while it might not be easy or, you know, pain-free or drama-free all the time, with this tool, it's like, okay, at least we get to lay it out on the table. And, you know, I had this discussion at church the other day. Like, I'm always having these, I'm talking about sex at church the other day. And the topic about like open relationships and attraction to other people came up. And I think that people were shocked by how freely I was talking about it with Justin present, which I'm like, of course he knows because he's my husband. But then it occurred to me in talking about it that the reason why I don't get upset when he says that he is attracted to other people is because, and the reason why I don't internalize that as me not being enough is because I am attracted to other people and it has nothing to do with him, right? Like, I still like him and I like Tupac, who's passed, so that's not a good example, but Common, who I could actually meet on the street, like, but anyway. And with sharing the different, you know, your different likes and dislikes and dreams and desires in this format, I can consciously, intellectually say, this doesn't have to be about me, the stuff that he says, because I know that what I'm about to share doesn't diminish my love for him.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's the beauty of doing it together.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell me, I have this little communication method that I follow called ICBD, created by my friends Alexandra Jameson and Bob Gower. It's intention, concern. Oh, okay. Oh, of course, we're friends, right? In my chapter, my motherhood book that's coming out in August of this year, I actually outline a conversation about sex using the ICBD method. So I was excited. I wish I had your journal when I was writing the book.
I know.
But we go through intentions, concerns, boundaries, and desires in every conversation. I noticed that you mentioned intention in your sex journal, but I want to hear what your dream is for this journal, because I want to help manifest it here. And I want the people watching to take action in facilitating this sexy, juicy dream of yours.
Oh man, that's amazing. Man, I think, I guess I'll go first. What really is inspiring to me is the conversations that have come out of this, and even just sharing the test kit that we sent to you to some couple friends of ours, and like getting their feedback and seeing what works for them, what has opened up in their relationships has been so inspiring. So I want to spark more conversation around sex and vulnerability, around intimacy. I think that it's something that we can all benefit from. And it's something that I have not had in my life I'm 31 years old. I haven't had this in my life until a year ago, really. And it's just changed the way that I interact with my partner, with my friends, with my family. And I want that for everybody.
Well, I want that for me too. So thank you. I received that. Levina, what is your big dream for the project?
Yeah, I mean, I loved how you opened this conversation, because that was the exact perspective that we took when we made the journal. Like in the very beginning, what Caleb and I realized was that, of course, you should talk about sex with the person that you're having sex with. And like having these regular conversations will make a huge impact on your relationship over time. What we really want to do is help people have really fulfilling and extraordinary relationships throughout their life. And so whatever opens up in the pursuit of that, like whether we make more things that support conversations, we've started hosting community events. So whatever it takes to open up more conversations and help people really see what it takes to have the relationships that they want, is within our scope.
Yeah.
I always say, when I'm talking about, not to derail the conversation, but when I'm talking about social justice issues, that we always have to look at who is experiencing the most oppression or the most harm, because when we make sure that they are receiving equal access, then everyone benefits. And in the same way, like going to the other side of the spectrum, when we look at the hardest conversations in our relationships, they are usually about sex and finances, right? Like those are the two hardest things to talk about. If you can have clear, open, honest, vulnerable, loving, compassionate conversations, truthful conversations about sex, there's nothing you can't talk about. Everything is
100%.
And I have found that in my own relationship. Like when I say I don't like that, and he's like, cool, we won't do that anymore. It's like, wow, we can we can talk about anything, and it feels really, really good. And I think, we all want stronger relationships, right? We all want to have joy and feel fulfilled, and, honesty and the vehicle to be able to be honest are so important. And I think that this is just that. I'm so excited.
100%.
Honey, we might be doing it tonight. But then you have to journal about it. There's homework. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait for everyone who's watching to head into the video description and pick up the links on how you can get a sex journal and connect with Levina and Caleb. Thank you. I'm so appreciative. I already feel it. I already feel it happening. Today's going to be a good day.
It's working.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's Wednesday, which means it's Personal Development Live Broadcast Day. So today, the topic is progress over perfection and how you can start celebrating yourself and stop feeling like a loser. Stop feeling like you're unproductive or you're not making progress toward your goals.